Namaskar. Hello and welcome to 𝗣𝗽𝗍𝙗 channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me today is veteran sports journalist Kannan, and we're going to be talking about Asia Cup, the upcoming World Cup, and some injury concerns that are cropping up even as we watch the India-Pakistan match play out. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Kannan. Kannanji, namaskar and welcome to 𝗣𝗽𝗍𝙗 channel.
Namaskaram, Sri Iyer sir, and all those who joined in.
So we were making a few predictions before we sat down for this offline, and unfortunately, one of them is that Iyer has now. I think he's been declared unfit for the entire Asia Cup, isn't it? Let's start there.
In Sanskrit, they say Shreyas Iyer. Shreyas means prosperity, well-being. Kama, let there be goodness. So Indian team at large needs Shreyas Iyer, not just for the Asia Cup and the ICC World Cup. So, but for Shreyas himself, we are talking about Shreyas Iyer, that the bad luck seems to be too often, Firstly, when he came back into the squad for the Asia Cup and also declared for the World Cup along with Rahul, we had expressed our doubts last Monday about what is match fitness and what is the standard, the yardstick of measuring fitness. Is it just sufficing if you look at what is being done by physios and trainers, but match fit? So a back spasm, because after all, this match was to begin on Sunday. It did begin. There was rain in Sri Lanka, and again today there was a rain delay. So this not being injury-free is a dangerous sign. And of course, if we move away from Shreyas Iyer, come to Rahul, obviously back with a bang, slammed a fiery 100 with Virat Kohli, who's now hit the 13,000 run mark in ODIs. But Rahul, again, when he's fielding, you're a bit worried. Is this guy going to be really fit? And I think the big concern is fitness, number one. And the second is scheduling. There's a lot of social media war going on. That why do you need an extra day in the entire, we're playing a group 4, the best 4 playing from the Asia Cup, which means only one team is out. Why are you giving a reserve day just for Ind-Pak? Is this whole Asia Cup about Ind-Pak? Then why don't you play a bilateral? So many countries have volunteered to host Ind-Pak cricket. You keep a reserve day, which is Monday, that is Sunday, Monday. And on Tuesday, you're again going to be playing. So is it the best decision from the BCCI president, Mr. 𝗤𝙧, and the entire team that you're going to put the team on the field 3 days in a row, and you don't know what can happen?
Yes, indeed. And the thing about this game is India would want to get to the 20 over mark as quickly as possible. Because if that doesn't happen, if rain intervenes, and it's a definite possibility, if that happens, then this will be a incomplete match, in which case both teams split points. And then again, tomorrow India has another game with Sri Lanka. Not an easy one, playing Sri Lanka at home. And we don't know what kind of a weather pattern there is going to be. I mean, is it even possible that India might go through 3 games without finishing a single game? And in that case, even if there is one finished game by anybody else, those two Pakistan and one other team might make it, like Sri Lanka might make it to the finals. I'm just a little curious how this could play out. Your thoughts?
I think it's perfectly apt and well said from your end. Let's not forget that when the first match between India and Pakistan happened, also it was, a similar situation. There's been a lot of criticism for the weather and for the scheduling in Sri Lanka because this is the time it rains there. The ifs and buts are more than the certainties, not just about the fitness, but also about the weather. You've heard about Englishmen talking about fickle weather, but we're talking about global warming. We're talking about high levels of carbon emission. We're talking about, New Delhi hosting the G20 and so many agreements taking place on what should be done vis-a-vis nature and how to control this. And it's a global fight, how to wage it. So Sri Lanka, everyone knows, that part in August, September, right from July, it's unpredictable. If the aim was to give the Asian teams, specifically India, plenty of practice along with Sri Lanka and Pakistan, maybe an alternate venue in hindsight would have been better off. Let's not forget 21, 22, bulk of cricket during the COVID pandemic, 19 pandemic, which was raging, was played in the United Arab Emirates, including portions of the IPL. And then last year, before the T20 World Cup in Australia, the Asia Cup in 20-over format was held in UAE. So Sri Lanka seems a bad choice, number one. And we talked about Pakistan hosting just 4 matches. I think Pakistan weather is it's clear weather, But now obviously the bilateral relations between India and Pakistan are such you cannot go and play in Pakistan. Though Pakistan comes and plays in India, Pakistan plays hockey in India, and if there's any other sport which is not just a specific bilateral series, you can do it. And we need to answer if the president of the Indian Cricket Board, BCCI, Roger Binney and Rajiv Shukla can go to Pakistan, chat with the PCB and come back and say we were treated, like really well and royally. I don't see what is the reason that you can't go and play in Pakistan. If it is a government decision at the highest level because of whatever Pakistan does on the border, then there should have been a way out. These two guys should not have gone. And then if you wanted to choose a neutral venue for the Asia Cup, even that was possible. We must not forget that 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙪 is also the president of the ACC, the Asian Cricket Council. So this whole scheduling has thrown preparations topsy-turvy. I think we'd have loved to see India get a full quota of matches under their belt. And I think the Asia Cup is not the best. It's easy to get fooled by the kind of runs which have been put on the board, spread over 2 days. Yesterday, starting with 𝗏𝗏𝗏 50, and then Shubman Gill, and today, the centuries from Kohli and KL Rahul. But this is not a T20 match which you're playing in one go. You're playing it over 2 days. Is that the real test? And is it the real, when you enter a exam situation? It's not like if you're taking a 3-hour test, you do 1.5 hours today and carry forward to the next day 1.5 hours. No, there's a whole dynamic change. So for me, to go gaga over this performance is not really important, because the big tests are there and we don't even know what's going to happen given the rain, because the latest news which I read on social media, X as they call Twitter now, is the India-Sri Lanka match also may be affected by rain. If that is going to happen, then Team India are going to be left with just 3 matches to, be really match sharp when Australia come to India. And just 3 matches flat out may not be sufficient. This is where lack of planning in the Asia Cup does not gel well with the public at large.
A couple of things. The runs that got poured on today by India has come because the Pakistani bowling has not been doing well. Haris Rauf has walked off with a niggle. They are just giving cautionary, just rested him. Naseem Khan, the last over, he also walked it off. Somebody else, I think, finished the last over, if I remember correctly. He had 1 more over to go. So my point here is that, maybe playing Pakistan 3 times was a diabolical plan by India to make sure that all the fast bowlers of Pakistan break down so that they'll not have enough time to be ready for World Cup. Who knows? All these things happen. Also, my 2 cents on why the games are being played in Colombo, I think the pitch preparation has a factor here. I don't know if they could have changed it in such a short notice, because you need to have 4 or 5 pitches, right, Kannan? If you're going to Super 4, right, you need
a whole array of strips right there. But we're talking about Pakistan. I think Pakistan is probably hiding its trump cards. If you look at, I don't think they're really going to be facing a niggle. I don't think even Pakistan is taking this tournament too seriously, and there has been an overdose of Ind-Pak. It's been an overkill, as we have in our headline on the P Guru show. When you play them once in a few years, there is that mystique, there is that magic. But now it's becoming far too often when you're playing in T20 format or in ODI format. Of course, there's no Indo-Pak Test cricket as such. And what is happening is, you're talking about the pitches. One saw even when the domestic league in Sri Lanka was held, the quality of pitches was very poor. And when you have rain, it's affecting. Worst, when you talk of ground conditions and how the ground staff is readying the pitch, the outfield, you're finding that the quality of equipment available to dry the ground, to ensure there is no water seepage, is very, very shabby. It's so shabby that, you're carrying what is be called as an old table fan or a pedestal fan. You're trying to, make it stand and dry the ground. There's no such thing like a super sopper.
They don't have soppers? There's a huge soppers that
there is leakage, and no fast bowler wants to risk his limbs. When I mean risk his limbs, is nobody wants to pull a niggle and get injured during the warm-up, and obviously want to conserve and preserve. So they're probably taking it easy because these underfoot conditions are not good. This is not at all warranted. I don't think this is an ACC tournament. Of course, the umpires are all there, international umpires are there. But if you're going to provide such substandard conditions under the ICC banner in an ODI tournament between two nations, this is not acceptable. And Sri Lanka is being shown very poor light. I'm sorry to say that. Obviously, they can't do much about the weather, but about the conditions there, it's under the ACC banner. When you're giving the hosting rights to a nation, you need to check whether it's right or wrong. We've seen, England, we've seen Australia, we've seen even in India. Sometimes the matches are held up for rain, but when you have wonderful drainage system, when there's no seepage of water, when you have the right super sopper, when you have ways and means to dry it out and ensure that it's safe for the players, that's not happening here. So you're looking at, there's a famous cricket journalist from India, I have no hesitation in taking his name, Vimal, who's going solo and posting videos from outside the stadium. It looks like, a pool. It's probably so bad that you can slip and fall. So if there's no drainage at all, and how do you expect fans to come in? And last but not the least, we are in the second day of a match which is continuing. Stands were empty on Sunday between two arch rivals, India and Pakistan. What does it say? It says that even fans don't want to be fooled. They don't want to be taken for a ride that, you're playing India-Pakistan and nobody's coming to the ground. Had this been a scenario a decade ago, I don't think it would have happened. You would have probably seen even fans from India, fans from Pakistan going there. First mistake which was made when India played Pakistan in the Super League stage was overpricing the tickets. And now comes this mistake which is leading to empty stands. I don't think anybody wants to see empty stands. We've seen that the domestic leagues in India or anywhere else around the world, there is a fan involvement, there is a spectator involvement that is not there. So that leads us to the big question. Was this scheduling, was this conceptualization the best or the worst? I'm personally not at all happy with the way things have panned out in this tournament.
Thank you so much. And then viewers, this is the real scenario that will be very disappointing for India's fans. India might go through the entire tournament not losing a game, and still not make it to the final. It's a real possibility today.
I think the first thing is you're not even completing a game. If you're not completing a game, not making to the final is of course a big blow. But the main thing is you want to prepare for the World Cup. Winning the Asia Cup is not the big deal. Doing well as hosts, we are talking about Atithi Devo Bhava. Atithi Devo Bhava is good to be a host. But professional sport where you are going for the kill, you need to produce that killer instinct and be on top of your game. And we've seen before this as well, when India toured West Indies, the results in the ODI series were disappointing. I mean, just scraped through in the ODIs and you lost the T20 series. So where is that right kind of preparation which has gone in for Team India before the World Cup? It's totally missing. And if you're going to be impressed with just one knock or two knocks, yeah, certainly Virat Kohli scoring 100, 13,000 runs aggregate is a big deal. But no, this is not about individual landmarks. This is about Team India. Are they going in with the full practice? We're looking at the bowlers, Jasprit Bumrah. You know, how many, I would love to see him at least play 5 or 6 or 7 ODIs where he's bowling his full quota of 10 overs, so that you know when he's going to be playing in the World Cup, he's fit. You know, after all, going to Ireland, playing T20 and coming back is not the best proof of his fitness. By nature, his action, which you mentioned, sir, last week, and by nature, fast bowlers tend to break down despite the best training and recovery methods post surgery, trauma, and rehab. So you've got two batsmen. Sorry, we don't want to use the word batters because you talked about Dosa last week. So Shreyas, we don't know whether he's going to be out again. Rahul, obviously he's got 100, but how is his hamstring going to hold? Is he going to be keeping wickets? We don't know. Ishan Kishan is there. So all this suspense could have been avoided. I think we just go to the match, start the World Cup, and you know who is to be picked, horses for the courses. It doesn't seem so simple right now.
Yes, indeed. And a couple of things about hosting the World Cup in India. Again, I'm telling you the reality. Nobody will tell you the reality, okay? This is where things kind of get a little pear-shaped. The challenge for India is to make sure that the stadia where the games are going to be played are going to be really good, especially for drainage facilities and so on and so forth. If it's not going to be that way, it's going to be huge embarrassment because you are going to be on world stage. One of the challenges, Kannan, that I have heard from people when countries like, say, for example, Australia, even United States, England, South Africa, New Zealand, everybody is beaming, right? India's bandwidth, when something like this is happening, where you are going to have 1080p, I'm hoping 1080p will be there, not 4K. 4K will be out of question. But India's infrastructure to beam consistently high quality video footage over its cables is a huge challenge. Somebody told me that, oh my God, India was the hardest place to deal with. So the company that I was talking to is a company that specializes in making sure network is not the bottleneck. Today, right, internet, network is the bottleneck, which is why we always have this, things go down and back. That is the slowest thing. Your phone may be also slow, but network is usually the bottleneck. And this company specializes in speeding up networks. And he said, I spent a fortnight, this was 2011 World Cup. He said, my God, every center was a slightly different challenge. Every time we had to do, all sorts of, he kept saying the word jugaad, but he said it in a way that I couldn't understand the first couple of times. Then he said, jugaad, you have to do jugaad, otherwise it doesn't work. So India has that challenge also. I hope that with 5G and everything else, India has sorted out that part. So we have a few things, not just in players, but also in technology. Back to you. You want to say something?
So 3 points. You raised first the bandwidth problem, a nightmare for the broadcasters. I think from 2011 to 23, there have been a lot of changes. I think the way internet has improved in India is good. But yes, for the people producing the pictures, as it is called in the broadcast language, it is a challenge. The logistics is a challenge. It's crisscrossing various centers. Maybe that part is going to be addressed pretty well, and there's actually no test run really to say that they'll do it and jugaad will work, because that's how India has put on shows in the past as well. But the second part is the ticketing. I think the ticketing mess is chaos. And one man whose name I will take, who's dominating X, sorry, I like to still call it Twitter, sorry, Elon Musk, X is not my acceptability, Twitter, Venkatesh Prasad has been going hammer and tong at how the ticket sales has been a massive mess. You're not getting access to the tickets. Are your tickets priced properly? Are you holding the right number of tickets for the fans? Or are you blocking tickets to give it to the VIPs, to the corporate honchos, to the players who are obviously in a position to command? Let's talk about a venue like New Delhi, where I live. We have the 𝗣𝗚𝘂𝗿 𝗓𝗏, now of course
Oh, it's
renamed
called
after.
ॼaitley Stadium now. It's called
I
ॼaitley
just
Stadium now.
now it's called the Arun Jaitley Stadium. In India we have a fancy for naming venues, airports after politicians, which I think should change. If you take the name of Nehru, you will find Nehru Stadium everywhere. Even in towns in Palakkad nearby, and even in Madras, now Chennai. So I think we need to get over this fetish. MCG is MCG, Lords is Lords, but we need to get over this habit of naming it after Arun Jaitley. Due respect to Arun Jaitley, he's no more. Of course, his son Rohan Jaitley is the president of the DDCA. DDCA, I'm talking about DDCA. The joke is Delhi District Cricket Association. The nickname was Delhi Drinking Cards Association, because people used to go there to drink, play cards. Cricket was the last priority. Bringing up talent, so on. No. That part has not changed in Delhi. And hosting a cricket match in Delhi, you're right next to the old Delhi Gate, historic, and ramparts of Kotla are there. There's a traffic chaos. It's going to be a nightmare. So, is this the best place to host? It's the capital, no doubt about it. But when you go to that stadium, it's still not easy. Old days, you had to go by bus. If you had to park, it was very far. Of course, now thanks to the Delhi Metro network, you can get off and go through. Security is going to be a nightmare. And we're talking about a center like Delhi. You go to a place like Bangalore, obviously, which is hosting the later part of the World Cup. The way Bangalore has grown in population, in the demography, buildings coming up, going to the venues is not at all easy. So this is going to be a challenge. Your ticketing is a challenge. The genuine fan, he cannot get the ticket or she cannot get the ticket, is very, very sad. I mean, if someone with money buys the tickets, or, we have this VIP culture also in India. Oh, okay. If you're looking at DDCA, club members get so many tickets. It's there in Bombay also. Eden Gardens, of course, has changed over the years. And probably one venue where there's so many seats, 110,000 is going to be the erstwhile Motera, now named after the Prime Minister Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. That's a beautiful venue. That's strategically located out of the city, which is the way it should be. It should not be a problem. But as you said, broadcaster nightmare for ticketing, even for the people accessing the venue. I'm just talking about the man who's healthy or the fan who's healthy. If you are going to talk about in India, someone who needs assistance, for example, someone who needs a wheelchair to be taken to the venue, no way. I mean, if you're going to cross the main road and go there, there's no dedicated way to go in. So these factors have not been factored. I think we can gloat over the amount of money you're going to make, can gloat over, you don't have to sit in front of a TV. You can hold this cell phone in your hand. Now you can watch the match and become easier. That is the experience when you're dealing with the digital world. There's TV rights plus digital rights. But when you want to go to the venue, after all, there's nothing like watching sport in a three-dimensional way. I mean, when you're watching any sport, football, soccer, in the US, NFL or NBA, or name the sport, US Open, which just ended very, very recently, less than 12 hours ago. You're looking at the fan experience. If someone goes to Arthur Ashe Stadium, he knows what it is. Despite New York being the big apple and all that, you know how you're going to find your way in and out. But in India, it's a nightmare. So where is that guarantee? Does the security system really work, keeping the fan in mind? No. We've also had the situation of at least 3 or 4 venues raising an alarm that they are not ready to host back-to-back matches. They wanted a change in dates. They're saying that the police is not ready. If Calcutta has said Durga Puja is a problem, Hyderabad has talked about Diwali. So why are these issues coming up? This should not be there. And we are talking about the World Cup. Even for hosting some of the practice matches before the World Cup, a couple of cities are facing problems because there is no support from the local police, and which is a very sad situation. All this should have been dealt with long ago. The ICC calendar and exact who plays who was long ago. How come cities are waking up? If you've given matches to, the states association, like say Hyderabad Cricket Association, or in Mumbai, or DDCA, or Gujarat Cricket Association, TNCA, Chennai, KSCA, Karnataka. Of course, unfortunately, Mohali is not in favor. Good old days when you had Punjab Cricket Association, Mohali was one of the best venues, but Mohali is out of favor. Now it is Dharamshala. So all this planning obviously is lacking. There is a genuine fear that there's going to be chaos. And of course, you use the right word, 𝙒𝙬𝙤𝙬, pull it off. But is that the way to do it? You can do it much more professionally. It's very easy to say it's an ICC event. But we are the host. When we talk about we're talking about India. India is the host, and it should be welcoming guests. The people calling from overseas. Even the media accreditation, media is a major component. That accreditation process was delayed because the people wanting to come from overseas. For example, Pakistan team is going to be playing in the World Cup in India. But what about journalists from Pakistan, those who want to cover cricket? Are they going to come? Are they going to get their visa? So there are several issues, several doubts. It's leading to a dilemma about how India is going to pull off this World Cup. I'm sorry, I'm not wanting to be negative, but these are hard, cold facts.
Yes, indeed. The what we want to try and highlight to all our viewers is there are a few challenges. I'm sure India will overcome them, but jugaad should not be the way to go. That is my 2 cents here. And also we have to see how the weather holds up. Kannan, we have a few questions from our viewers. If
yes, please.
Perhaps you can take them now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, legend gamer Aprameya. Chaitanya Takle wants to know any big cricketing names involved in fixing. Chaitanya, a list of 13 was submitted to the Supreme Court in 2013 after that Sri Lanka fiasco. Why don't the Supreme Court open that envelope and read out the names? It's already been given. You want to add to that? Please go ahead.
Well, I think the first question itself is the most explosive question, like a typical T20 format. Legally, we are talking about betting. Betting is not allowed in India. There's a big difference between betting, match fixing, and spot fixing. Betting is not legal in India. If you go to Europe, if you go to Britain, if you go to the United States of America, if you go to Australia, there are any number of betting tills. Of course, not necessarily inside the stadium, but you can bet online. But in India, betting is not allowed. Betting is illegal. But to talk about fixing, well, Mr. Sree Iyer talked about the envelope lying with the Supreme Court of India, and there are supposed to be certain names. We don't know whether there are any prominent names who are still in the current competitive mode or they're part of the IPL, but certain names have come out. But obviously, if I take those names, I will face libel suit, including P. Guru, so I'm not going to take any names. There have been allegations. The IPL has seen fixing. We've seen what happened with a team like Chennai Super Kings. We've seen what happened to players like Sri Lanka. We saw for 2 years teams being removed from the IPL, banned, and then they had to come back. But if you're talking about international fixing, no. It's very, very difficult today for the simple reason I have access to, being one person who goes to the venue, as also on radio shows. I interact with people who are part of organization. The International Cricket Council is very, very serious. For example, we are sitting in the dugout. I'm talking about the IPL. I'm not talking about international cricket because the maximum number of matches is IPL. So when a player goes, even support staff is sitting in the dugout, he has to give his phone 2 hours before the match and he can pick it up. Even anyone standing near the dugout he cannot be hanging around there. He'll be pulled up because you have the ACU, Anti-Corruption Unit, keeping an eye. If you're talking about fixing, it's now virtually impossible to fix because you're being watched. You're being watched globally. You're being watched. The number of cameras spanning on you, the trend is very clear. So that's why I said today when talking about Pakistan fast bowlers not going flat out, I think they're trying to preserve themselves. They don't want to risk it in these conditions. And obviously the big picture is the World Cup. If you're talking about betting does exist. If anyone says betting does not exist, that's a lie. Betting happens. Unfortunately, all the betting is illegal. And I am one of those who believes that India should enact a law where betting becomes legalized. When you look at the lottery system, British lottery system, what good it does, all the revenue which comes to the government is used properly. If you have in certain states, when I mean states, if you have like, say, for example, if you go to Kerala, so-called communist state, the lottery ticket sale is big business. A guy may not have a job, but every morning he will want to take out the 10 rupee note to buy a lottery ticket.
You live on hope.
Yeah, he lives on hope. Then I asked the person selling the ticket. He's saying that for one ticket I sell, a 10 rupee ticket, I get 1 rupee. So even if he sells, say, 50 tickets a day, he's making 500 rupees. The catch is not there. And he also says that by luck or fluke or by hook or crook, somebody wins a prize, he gets a percentage of it. So betting does exist. Anyone who says that betting does not happen, I don't believe it. The only sad part is it's a very, very conceited method, and there are people who are doing it. There are certain apps, for example, I don't mind taking the name Dream 11. You're talking about a Dream 11 being formed. What is Dream 11? It's betting. To me, it's betting. And sadly, a man who was endorsing it is the former BCCI president and former India cricket captain, Sourav Ganguly. So why don't you make it transparent? Why don't you legalize betting? You enact the law. You bring it into parliament and make it legal. Let it be a level playing field and let there be no hanky-panky. If there's betting, let it be so. Someone who wants to bet, let him bet and let there be odds, let there be transparency, let the money come in and the government is going to earn from it. Right now, the people involved in it, we don't know who's involved in it. That's where it leads to question from viewers like Chaitanya, whether betting happens, whether fixing happens. World Cup, certainly, no. Fixing cannot happen. If that is going to happen, the credibility will be eroded. And as it is, T20 is fighting for survival because after this World Cup, we are going to see more and more of T20 plus the thrilling Test cricket. Thank you.
And even as we speak, rain has arrived. The score is 44 for 2, 11 overs. So there's that thing still hanging, whether the remaining 9 overs are going to be bowled or not. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I hope more people will join us now that the match is stopped. Super Bharat 42 wants to know, what's your opinion on reserve day for India-Pakistan match? Is that a fair decision, even though it's not a final?
I think we discussed this point.
We discussed this, yeah.
Start of the show. But I think it's very unfair. If you want to have a reserve day, why should it be just for 2 teams? You're having an Asia Cup. You're not having a bilateral. And this kind of being, kind to just 2 teams, just because you want to maximize the opportunities between India and Pakistan is not right. What it is showing is that there is a very, very strong bias. So that bias is now pronounced that you want to accommodate more Ind-Pak matches. If you want to do that, you might as well find a neutral venue and go on play, and there's nothing wrong with it. After all, Ind-Pak matches are cricket. They're not war. Whatever happens between politicians, the slugfest and whatever happens, in Kashmir Valley and nearby the border and all is a different story. So this reserve day, if it is there, it should be kept for everyone. This lack of uniformity in the rules and regulations is jarring. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. And next question, Aditya R. Venkatramanan wants to know, at this point, I'm very skeptical about Indian performance because the Asia Cup's a joke of a preparation from an Indian perspective. Yeah, I think we dwelt on this at length. If you want to add a couple of sentences, then we can go on to the next one.
Yeah, I think he's asked a question that, it's not just you and me, sir, that we are talking about the joke. Even the viewer, even the spectator, the fan in him is saying, is this the best preparation? He's skeptical, one can be agnostic whether God exists or not. When God does exist, God does not exist is something which is a matter of faith. But here you need to have a belief whether your team is preparing well. And unless you have a belief that the team is preparing well and this team will deliver and not depend on jugaad, and you're not depending on a prayer to win the World Cup, this is not the right preparation. I am sure if you look at the history of India hosting, you're looking at 87 World Cup, if you look at 97 when it was hosted by 3 countries, and 2011 World Cup, there was no such confusion. I don't understand why in 2023, when India has advanced so far ahead, this is becoming butt of ridicule.
Next one, please. Partha V wants to know, with climate turning erratic, is it time India think about building an all-weather stadium with a retractable roof? Good question.
I think that's a fantastic question. Retractable roof is something which may sound very odd. Let me just share, from my personal experience, not that I'm talking about me having traveled the world and seen, but even the veritable British at All England club, southwest of London, called Wimbledon, vagaries of weather. I remember in 2001, the match went on to the third Monday, People's Monday. Only then the match ended when Gorani won his switch. Today, Novak Djokovic's coach won the title. So it took resistance to be broken by even someone like Wimbledon, where in the name of tradition, they still play all whites. There's so many rules and regulations, and they built a fantastic centre court with a roof. They built court number 1 with a roof. And if you're talking about the Australian Open as well, where it's not the rain, but the extreme heat condition in January, it's the other part of the hemisphere where, suppose it's winter in the hemisphere where India is situated or Asia is situated, is the other way across in Australia. So they have a heat rule. But yeah, looking at the long run retractable roof, why not? For example, West Indies and USA are going to be hosting the T20 World Cup next year. And I was in the US last year. I was very impressed to see that a suburb in Boston had indoor practice facilities, because there are some people playing cricket as a hobby. But, they were having proper throwdown facilities. So I asked them, what are you going to do when you guys have snow for 4 months? You can't even step out. They said, no, we have an indoor stadium. Mighty impressed. So I think in the long run, we will have to plan indoor stadium, because this is not a sport. Cricket is not a sport like, say, tennis or badminton or table tennis, where the AC draft is going to affect the flight of the shuttle or the tennis ball or the behavior of the ball in use, which is basically white in shorter formats and red in test cricket. I mean, if you want to kind of homogenize the conditions, if you want to ensure that play is uninterrupted, looking at it from the futuristic point of view, you will need venues to do. And I see that happening. I think probably the lead will be taken by possibly the US, and we are not far away from that day when cricket is catching on, even in Europe. So many places in Europe. I'm not talking about Britain at all. There are certain countries where cricket is catching on. And don't forget that, of course, much smaller in stature and size, but China is hosting the Asian Games in Hangzhou, which is near Shanghai, September 23 to October 8. They have built a fantastic cricket stadium. So cricket is no longer just, about 6, 7, 8 countries, and all-weather stadium will be a reality. Why should it be affected? And if you're going to have all-weather, probably you can use it for the IPL. You can use it for various T20 leagues, which are there now almost all over the world, including South Africa. The US also has its league. You've got Pakistan. The rich countries certainly can invest in it, and there's nothing wrong in it. We have come to a stage where, you feared the umpire raising the finger. Today, you're using technology for everything from, a catch, the ultra edge, plumb leg before also, he wants to take a review. If there's a run out, whether it is, by centimeters, he's missed it. If there's a short ball, for everything you're relying on technology. So when you're relying on technology, when you're reducing the human element, I'm not saying killing the human element. So what is wrong in adding a new dimension, which is the all-weather stadium with the retractable roof? If you need the roof, bring it on. And then let the roof be brought down by those who play the sport.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that brings us to a close of today's session. I wish more people had participated, but I think these things live on the a cloud for a long time. I hope viewers do tune in and watch what we are saying, because I'm hoping that I'm going to be proven wrong, that India will win one game in the Super 4. They need to win only one game to make it to the final. So let's hope and pray that that happens. Thanks once again, Kannan. And viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Kannan will be with us tomorrow. We'll be talking in Hindi in our Hindi session at 9 p.m. Kannan will be one of the guests. We'll be talking about cricket in Hindi. Do join us for that. Namaskar.
Jai Hind.